Hey there, it's time for the show, the Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. This episode of The Tatiana Show has been brought to you by eToro.com. You can trade in a wide range of assets, connect with the crypto community, and automatically copy top-performing portfolios at eToro.com. Quite simply, they have the top currencies, smart tools, low fees, social trading, all in one simple app. Connect with over 11 million eToro traders around the world using social feeds. eToro makes powerful trading tools easy. Get started in minutes right now at eToro.com. That's eToro.com.
Hey everybody, how's it going out there? Hope you're staying alive. This is Tatiana Rose, and the Tatiana Show is being brought to you from a quarantined location deep in the woods of New Jersey. I don't have Josh with me right now because he's probably sleeping or resting because it's late where he is, but I'm here with Luke Mulks from Brave, and Luke has been on the Tatiana Show with me before, and we have a whole bunch of cool things that are going on that we wanted to talk about. I guess some of them are depressing, but then some of the solutions that Brave has been coming up with are actually really exciting and fun. So before we get started, I just wanted to say a quick thank you to our sponsor, eToro. eToro, you're the best. Thank you so much for sponsoring the show. We really appreciate it. And then also, if you guys are interested to bring a little bit of love into your lives or talk about relationships or sex or lack thereof, go to proofoflovecast.com. We have shows coming out on the Let's Talk Bitcoin Network every Friday. Proofoflovecast.com. That's me, Stephanie Murphy, from the Let's Talk Bitcoin show, and Lauren Kasovitz. And, we just shoot the shit. So that's been a lot of fun. We have some celebrity guests. So check out the latest Andreas Antonopoulos episode. We did one with Giacomo Zucco and Mir. We did one with Jimmy Song. We have Max Kaiser and Stacy, but then we also have regular topics. So yeah, check it out. Anyway, Luke, thank you so much for being back on the and I'm glad that you're keeping safe during this interesting change of events in the world. How are you?
Yeah, doing all right. Thanks for having me on again. This is interesting times we're in.
Before we start, I don't know, what should we talk about first? I think let's talk about what's going on over at Brave since we last talked, because we did a relatively short podcast back in Miami, but since then you guys have been growing a lot, making a lot of new deals, and especially something around COVID that takes advantage of your partnerships that you're offering for different charities and other NGOs. So maybe give us a little breakdown of that stuff. And even actually for people that aren't familiar with the Brave browser, that'd be cool if you could just break down why it's so cool, because I'm using it, I'm earning BAT.
Awesome. Yeah, no problem. Sure. So basically Brave is kind of a privacy focused web browser. And we, start by kind of like blocking anything that would track you from any third party tracking, third party ad calls, anything that would collect your data and invade your privacy without you being aware of it. We stopped that. And then we built in, first global private ad and rewards platform. And we set up a service for publishers and creators to sign up and receive our token, the basic attention token, which is ERC20 Ethereum-based token. So you can actually view ads that are privacy preserving and receive BAT as you browse the web. So it's kind of like having a frequent flyer mile or reward point when you browse. And then you can take that BAT and you can, pay it forward to content creators. We built tipping in the browser, and we made it so that you can also register with our partner Uphold and convert it to Bitcoin or take it out of your wallet or do anything like that. And then, more timely is, we started this ad grant program about a year ago where, we have over 500,000 publishers and content creators that have signed up with the browser to accept tokens. And one thing that we started to do with this ad grant program is open that ability up for causes. So nonprofits, causes that are aiming to do good in the world, et cetera, can sign up as a publisher with us and accept tokens from our users in the browser, and then, keep that if they want to hold crypto, or they can convert that to cash and put it into their coffers so they can, use it as a fundraising vehicle. But, one of the cool things that we've been able to do is basically, create a ton of awareness. So anytime that we have an opportunity to serve an ad that hasn't been sold yet in the browser, we show an ad from one of these nonprofits. And for like Giving Tuesday in December of last year, we basically shut off all of our paid ads and ran only ads from nonprofits. So it's a way that we're able to kind of take, this idea of having, this private ad platform that people control in the browser, and to the next level and doing actual good work with it. And, with all this stuff happening with COVID, we really wanted to kind of focus on what are some causes that we could add to the ad grant program that are doing really important work that really impacts people that are getting hit hard by this pandemic. And so the first one we launched about last week or earlier this week was with No Kid Hungry. So we gave them an ad grant, basically started to advertise for them on the platform. And we made it so that, you can just go to their website, nokidhungry.org, and if you have BAT in the browser, you can just use a tipping feature in the browser and help them out. And what they're trying to do is, with school lunch programs being disrupted, a lot of kids actually rely on those school lunch programs for their meals. And so what's happened with COVID and all this, everyone staying at home, is that school closures have meant that, those kids aren't having meals anymore that they're relying on because, they're on hard times or whatever. And so what No Kid Hungry is doing is basically taking, contributions like those that people are giving them in Brave and making that into meals for kids that need to eat. And, the other thing that we're doing, we're actually launching it today, is with an organization called GetUsPPE.org. They actually it's a group that was started by some doctors and surgeons that are at the hospitals that need equipment badly. Just last night, there was an article in the New York Times about a bunch of care workers that were anonymously posting to this Google Doc just their situation. In some cases, they're just being told to sanitize gloves with hand sanitizer instead of putting new gloves on. The situation is getting pretty bad at the hospitals. And so what this organization basically does is they get masks and they get equipment for hospitals and for first responders, and they get it to the source that they need from donations and people that have it have it in ready condition to deliver. So we're going to be running ads for those people too. And people can give them contributions with tokens that they've been earning in the browser, or they could actually just go there and pay, with regular, payment rails at the sites and help to contribute. So, we're doing a lot of work like that. We're doing a lot of work with creators, but we're really trying to, do more than just say wash your hands, because everybody has been told that forever. We're just trying to, really put the good where we can and put it to work in a way that's really helping people out that need it.
Well, when you talk about content creators, I know a lot of artists and stuff that are out of work because, they can't go and gig. And now people have been transitioning to online performances. How have you guys been able to integrate in that? Or is that not something that you need to do because you're already a button on YouTube, right? So if somebody's live streaming something, they can already be doing this, right? In order to supplement their income.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. So we set it up to that if you have a YouTube channel, but it's more than just YouTube now too. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Twitch, if you're on Vimeo, if you have a Reddit account or a website, you can sign up with Brave. So go to creators.brave.com. And verify with Brave, and then people in the browser can, either when they're just watching your content, if they have our auto contribution feature on, it'll just automatically measure how much time they spend on your site. And if you're verified, at the end of the month, you'll get tokens from people that are contributing that way, or people can just directly tip you in the browser. So all you have to do is go to creators.brave.com and register your YouTube account with us and sign up with Uphold. And then basically you can accept tokens and directly from our users. So if you're doing live streaming on YouTube, people can tip you directly from the browser. So it's another way that help content creators, earn some additional revenue. I think the other thing that we have that it's been a huge growth driver for us is we have a referral program where basically if you tell friends about Brave and they come in through the link and they stick around for, I think it's a month or so, we'll give you $7.50 in BAT for every qualifying user that you get. That's in the US. When you get out of the US, there's different, tiers based on where we can monetize. But even at the lowest tier, I think it's $250 per monthly active user. So these are ways that our product is one, it's just trying to mainstream privacy in a way that nobody is able to do it, because we're new to the market. We're doing it in an extreme way that'll work anywhere, and we've been really consistent about that. And so what you're getting with Brave is just a safer, a more product that is like kind of out to help protect your privacy. And so the product works fast. It's good. And if you go tell your friends about it or whatever, or even post a link, there's just that way to make money, but you can also just get contributions from people just watching your stuff too. So as things get more virtual, right? It is a way to offset, some of that loss that's probably happening from not being able to go out and perform in public, and in events. So yeah, no, that's a great point. And you can even do it with your website too. So if you have a website, you can verify your website and your YouTube channel. And if you embed that in the site, you're earning from both of those things. Like there's a lot of things you can do within Brave that, to help earn some additional income. And yeah.
Let me ask you something. Have you guys had any interaction between your content creators? Because you said earlier, you have basically 500,000 content creators and different types of portals of content that are members of this. Have you thought of having I would say a live conference, but I guess that's off the table for now, but even an online conference or some kind of an opportunity for those creators to work together or meet their minds, because they're pretty like-minded. If they've been, early adopters, they're willing to take on some kind of a chance and realize why privacy is important. They're probably be more likely to be free thinkers. Is there a culture of the creators being created at Brave right now?
Yeah. So we've been working on that. What we saw early on was a lot of loyal and diehard community members kind of setting up places to find out who is created. Which creators are signed up for Brave, right? What we'd really love to do is exactly what you're saying right now, where we can pool groups of creators together to help, we think about things to go in the product, right? But most of the companies, engineering folks and people create content that work in the company, but it's not people that do it for a living, right? And so what we've kind of tried to do is create, the building blocks and the plumbing for all of this to work, but create it in a way that gives creators freedom to experiment and try things out. And I would absolutely love to see Brave put together, a live conference or something like that, or even participate in one that's happening for creators to help, show them some different ways that we could work together, and also take this stuff back to our team and say look, this group basically said if we do X, Y, and Z, it could really help them out. Let's do that. Let's cater to the folks that are using our product. Because even now, you still see YouTube and these other, platforms are still, making it more difficult for people that are starting out. And it's getting more and more kind of curated, cable TV. It's not what it used to be. And what we're trying to do is say, look, hey, you don't have to have 10,000 views in order to get money from Brave. You can earn with Brave while you're waiting, for that point to happen. And then, when we can also help you get your view counts up, right? There's a ways that you can earn with us that you can earn with YouTube. But once you can earn with YouTube, it's just supplemental income. The world's 100% of the world's not going to be on Brave. So you're going to have to kind of cater to both worlds. But at least here you're getting a growing audience of people. We're over 12 million monthly active users now. We're over 4 million daily active users. This is just, the growth just keeps, increasing month over month. And, it's at a point now where if we got a really great set of content creators together to really kind of workshop this out, I think that there could be even, more and more growth and more ways that we could work together. We have some other features that we're kind of working on that'll help creators to be able to kind of itemize out products that they want to sell to through the browser. So I think that, these are things we're kind of user first, but we're also, a lot of the mission here is to try and kind of save the conditions for creators to make content freely on the web, and get past a lot of this kind of deplatformy kind of stuff, and be, as long as you're not promoting violence, create your life away, on our and make money with it through Brave. That's kind of our position on this. And, we just want to grow and see the platform get more and more creators on board.
You've given me a lot of questions to ask you. So What about a secondary? No, I've got like a whole list of them. I don't know which way to take it, but I'm just going to go right down the list. So what about a secondary market for BAT to use for purchasing content or subscriptions? Obviously, people are earning it and then they're selling it. What do you do? What if I wanted to sell my album, Keep the Faith, for BAT?
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Like, do you guys have a centralized marketplace that kind of does all your content creators in one space, or no?
Yeah, so like even back in our white paper, like we were kind of suggesting or putting that out as an idea, and it's something that we're actively working on, right? Like because we hear this from content creators a lot, and we've been doing a lot of like interviews with content creators and stuff. And we have this many, it's kind of become difficult to get in touch with all of them to get feedback. But one thing that we really love is just feedback. So like it is one of those things where like you'll be able to basically like create a list of your offerings in there that people can if they're earning BAT, they can use their BAT to buy a song or an album or a piece of artwork or whatever, like directly from the browser. And so that's definitely it's being worked on right now. I'd love to kind of once this thing is out, and at least the way it works with Brave is we have our nightly channel, which is like early kind of like browse the future, but it's kind of broken sometimes, like version of the browser. Like what I love to do is like when we have that feature out, like come on here and show you like all how you can make this work, because it is a way where you're basically owning your own content. You're able to earn directly from it, and Brave's not getting in the middle of that. So yeah, like that's definitely happening.
Well, that's good to hear. I think it's really important. And then, I mean, was that sort of a vision though for the original use case for the BAT token? Like to let it be used in more than just as a rewards function? I mean, would it be considered almost a currency?
Well, I mean,
I don't want to say that because you might get in trouble, like, oh, we're saying something and we accidentally call it. But like, you know what I'm saying? Because then you got the SEC listing and we're not trying to raise anybody's ire. But what I'm saying is that can you use a BAT token like a trading instrument?
Yeah. So the way and just to answer the first part of the question, like, yeah, this was, I mean, like when we did the white paper, I'm pretty sure that there's use cases in the white paper already, like, and it's something that, Brendan Ike, our CEO, and other folks and myself included in the company have been, saying for a long time, you should be able to buy a subscription or buy a piece of content or, a record or whatever through the browser. And I think the point of the token, the token is a unit of account for attention and attention-based services within the platform. And that's something that's been very consistent from even before our token sale. So this is in the realm. I think, the idea is that within the ecosystem, you're earning tokens based off of viewing ads or whatever other rewards functions in there. But then, what are you doing with those tokens? And we didn't create this thing for people to just, check it out and like, cash out. We made this thing to help support content creation on the web and to create a new way that, because if you don't have this, right, like there are basically, you're either getting free content that has advertising that is just inherently designed to invade your privacy and to profit off of it. And you get nothing from that except for content that you're trying to get, which, okay, there's some value exchange there, but the way that this that promise has just gone way off the rails, right? If you don't do that, then the other alternative is subscriptions, which, okay, like who wants to have 100 subscriptions to everything? Like, and it just becomes really expensive. So like what we're doing here is we're trying to create, and this has been true from the early days, like, what's an alternative, whether that's, tipping or whether that's, buying a piece of content or subscription or whatever. I mean, like we did a partnership with Dow Jones Media Group, like in 2018, where we essentially were like funding, subscriptions with the token already. So like there's been an established history here, and we're not treating it as a currency. It's a unit of account. It has a very distinct purpose. And it's available in secondary markets, right? Because it's an ERC20 token, but it's not something like as universal as a Bitcoin or an Ethereum where it is really a currency. It's more of like this, you go to an arcade, right? Like, and you can use that token that you get at Chuck E. Cheese to play a video game. You can also use those tickets you receive to get gifts or whatever, like, it's, or prizes behind the counter, like it's kind of in that sense, like when you're in the ecosystem, these are things that you can use. And you could even see a situation where, okay, I've been accumulating, $5 or $10 worth of BAT in the browser. I want to go buy something. Like, it would be great. Like, why don't I take, that $5 or $10 that I've just gotten from browsing the internet and put it as a way to pay down the price of a product that I want to buy. So like there's other things that we're thinking about doing, especially in the e-commerce side, where you can use that BAT to, as a way to come almost like discount a product that you would typically have to pay full price for. But even in the case with this, No Kid Hungry work that we're doing, right? Like, it's rare. There's nothing else really out there where you can actually like do something good and help to feed a kid with something that you don't even have to open your wallet or take a credit card out for. It's because you've been browsing the web, and it just shows you, like, this whole point of this token was to show people that your attention has value, and everywhere else, your attention still has value. You're just not getting any of it. Like,
bingo. Totally.
that's the main thing here. And so the features and the functionality that we build in the platform all are built with that in mind.
Yeah. I mean, that's an important thing to kind of remind people of, and it's a gentle way to do it. And who doesn't like earning free money? I still have a couple more questions, but I want to ask you the question. Let's talk a little bit about privacy, because I want to go back to that for a second. Some people will say, why do I need privacy? I'm not doing anything bad. This is a classic argument. Do you want to give me the reason why that would be wrong? Or the wrong assumption? Yeah.
I mean, like, well, one, like, I don't want to live in a world where I'm assumed it's okay to just like basically, make me obey some invisible thing, right? Like, I would argue that person that says that also has window shades on their windows at their house. Like, there's an inherent desire to have privacy in human beings that, and there's a need to have privacy in order to create. If you create with, in conditions where you have someone looking over your shoulder all the time, and that doesn't mean that somebody's physically looking over your shoulder. It means that every time you go to a website, you've got, between 5 and up to like 200 or 300 companies that are collecting data about you. That's not healthy, right? Like, you want to be able to move freely as a person from place to place, whether that's your house to your car to elsewhere, without everybody peering in the windows and cataloging everything you're doing. And that's basically what's happening on the internet right now. And it's all happening behind the veil of the website that you're on. And that website, unfortunately, has to use that in order to make money. That's what's so broken about the internet right now, is that, it used to not even be this bad, like before, programmatic advertising kind of kicked into gear. So like from like, I don't know, the 90s up to like 2009, 10, 11, it was way simpler. You did have privacy invasion, but it wasn't the way it is now, where like you go to a page and there is this huge list of companies that basically all take your data and all make money off of it and all have profiles of you on servers. And maybe it's not your name that they have, but I know you can find out who I am from my driver's license number, right? Like if you have enough of this data, you can figure out what everybody's doing all the time. And like, it's not saying that everybody's misusing that data, but like we live in a different time now. The government can go to these companies with an order. And if then that order says that the company cannot tell you that the government is taking information about you, or they go to jail, or they face a penalty, right? Like, so it's a different operating model now. And it shouldn't have to be that way. You should be able to have agency to, go about your business without people peering in, and you should be able to let people have your data when you want to let them have it. That's the fundamental thing that we're doing here that's different. When you block that, third-party data collection that's happening, because if I go to google.com, like Google, and this is true in Brave, you go to google.com, you see Google search ads in google.com. It's expected. Like, it's their servers, they're serving it to you. You don't want to see other ads showing up for other servers like that you never wanted to be a part of, right? Like, that one-to-one experience is like inherent to the web. But then, when the third parties got thrown in the mix, it really screwed everything up. And it wasn't so bad at first, but it's really bad now. Like people have no idea how much data is collected about them. It's only getting, more and more excessive, even with regulation now. But the thing that's really kind of interesting is with the pandemic, you're seeing more and more government services are being referenced every day because people need to have information. But, the minute you download these apps, right, like they are in the framework of the device, right? So they can access other data that, you people can't even get on the web. Like it just, as these crisis moments happen, people kind of cling to comfort and are afraid. And I think that, you can get that information, from the same site in Brave without having to worry about, like, why should a government website have third-party tracking on it? Like, doesn't make sense. Like, but our chief privacy policy officer, exposed us in the UK. He went to like a bunch of government medical and other sites, and it turned out they were running a bunch of third-party ad network stuff in the background, and it's not necessary. Like there's no reason for government sites to do that. And so, it's kind of about shifting it, and it doesn't require people to learn about it. I mean, because privacy is kind of a weird thing. Like, what does it even really mean anymore? Like, you go to some countries, or regions like the EU, where there's clear definitions around what personal data means and all that. But in the US, there's none of that. It's not clear at all. And in moments of crisis, look at what happened with 9/11 with the Patriot Act, right? The Fourth Amendment just kind of gets stepped over when there's moments of crisis, right? And it's kind of similar things are probably going to start happening now, because you have a whole kind of global pandemic and the slowdown of the economy, and it's a crisis, and the governments are talking about it like war, and it's like these are the times when these things kind of get deeper and deeper ingrained and people lose privacy. And so I think, there's a balance there between I need good information from reliable sources, but I also need to be able to just not have my life invaded by all these weird companies that I've never heard of before. So that's kind of the fundamental thing that we're trying to do here, is make it so that you can have an internet where it's free and you can, make sure that people get paid, but doesn't require you to kind of sacrifice your privacy for it, which is the way that the internet currently is outside of Brave. If you want to go to a site and not get tracked by people, you have to go to another site to opt out of a cookie. But then if you reset your cookie, then you have to do the whole thing again. And that's assuming that you know what a cookie is. And people don't understand how this stuff works outside of tech circles. It's just give me something fast, give me something new, right? And that's kind of how we've had to position it in the market. But privacy is becoming more of a topic now. You've got people like Zuckerberg and other folks going on stage talking about it like it's popular, and so that means that the definition of what is privacy and what does that mean to people is it's something that's constantly changing. But what isn't changing is the fact that regardless of what that definition is, you still have window shades on your windows, you still have locks on your doors. You should be able to live in privacy and create with privacy and browse the web without a whole bandwagon of people watching and cataloging all your behavior, and sending it back to servers all the time. So yeah.
What's the point of all this technology without a little love in our lives? Our hosts, Tatiana Moroz, Dr. Stephanie Murphy, and Lauren Kasovitz, have come together to bring you Proof of Love. Go to proofoflovecast.com.
Do you think that there's some animosity among businesses in Silicon Valley? To me, Facebook, honestly, I love the Facebook interface. I use Facebook all the time, but I think of them as, the overlords of the evil empire. And then you mentioned Zuckerberg in relation to privacy. I mean, they lost how many millions of people's information. I think it was 230 million or something, people's information. So I'm not sure that they're taking privacy so seriously, or security. Is there a sense of competition in Silicon Valley among these different kinds of companies in terms of values?
I don't think so.
And do you think that those values will win out, or do you think that, you know what I'm saying? Do you think there's an ideological battle going on, or do you think it's not that complicated?
I mean, here's the funny thing about this, because, prior to Brave, I spent, I was a director of ad products, and I was really in the belly of the beast of digital advertising. So I worked with pretty much every, major ad stack that publishers work with. And I worked with publishers, and I worked, we did reselling, we did all sorts of stuff. And, it's not as competitive as people really think it is. A lot of these, Google you can run Google ads in Facebook, right? Like a lot of this stuff kind of works together, and a lot of these, there are third-party companies that are set up to import data from these different sources too. And I think the challenge is like, how, like, what is privacy going to mean when everybody's familiar with it, right? Like not animosity so much as like, these big companies are basically saying, look, we're protecting you from everywhere else. But while they're saying that, they're collecting all of your data. Like, and they're not just doing it in, a website, they're doing it from your device. If you have Facebook, the app installed, then you also have to have Facebook Messenger installed, which is for the messaging app to work. And both of those collect your data all the time. Like, and oh, by the way, you've also got Instagram installed too. Well, these are massive companies that have larger companies under their umbrella, and they're all collecting your data. So it's so weird that you can even go, like you can have a Facebook executive from one side of the business go say one thing while they've got business units that are also on your phone, doing other things, right? Like these companies are so big that it's not even necessarily like competitive between them anymore. It's about like, how long can we keep this model going? And Google, it's a similar situation. These are all like, it's all similar but different because, like Google, if you have an Android phone, it's in the operating system, you're running a search in Google, right? Like this stuff is collecting your data. And then Google tells you, well, you can control your privacy settings and do all these things. Even if you control those settings, it does not mean that the signals are not being sent to Google. That's the main thing that's like really kind of disingenuous. And it's not just Google that does this, it's everybody else too. Like, okay, I'm giving you control over something, but by the way, I'm still going to collect data all the time. I'm just going to filter it a different way. So if you do that, you're kind of telling Google that you care about privacy, which is also something that they can use to target advertising to you. Like, and whether that's directly or indirectly, it doesn't matter. Like it's still used as a characteristic. And so, it's really strange. Like the way, you're starting to see more and more, it's like third-party cookies are kind of like being, removed from the picture a little bit by little bit. And it's good that privacy, is becoming, a core in the zeitgeist, right? Like, and that browsers and companies are starting to act on it. But, when you have a company like that owns this much of the landscape, and Facebook doesn't just have their app and their website, right? They bought a company called Atlas in I think around 2010 or a little bit later, and that was basically plugged into most websites. Like, and so they bought that technology. So they're tracking the entire web just like everybody else is, and so you hope that it changes in the right direction, but nobody's created technology to make it work in a different way. And that's kind of the difference between what we've been doing. No one's had an incentive to do it. All the incentives have been in the opposite direction. It has been like, let me collect more data, better data that's worth more money. And so no one's got a better deal for somebody that collects less data. And so what we could do as a startup is come in and say, no, we just want to create an alternative to show people that this can work, to show people that you can go have the web without getting tracked everywhere, and that we can, using like cryptography and using, the blockchain and using, good, strong privacy principles, we can make this work and not kill the business online. And it's a challenge, and it takes scale to like do it, but we've been able to prove it out early, like in at a smaller scale, and we're growing at a rate to where it's just a kind of a matter of time and getting more and more adoption. But we're making the proof points work, and we're putting it out there. So like it's going to be really interesting to watch this happen. But I think like it's also kind of going to slow down with all of this pandemic. Like a lot of the topics that were there that were front of mind are kind of like not so much, and a lot of these who knows what's going to happen with this stuff. Like it's really tough to predict.
So I have these are great. I'm really enjoying this interview, but I got more for you. So if privacy and government appear to be at odds, right, because government doesn't want us to have privacy, would you guys as a privacy focused company be able to partner with the government that, for example, Google can? They're going out right now, they're saying, oh, coronavirus, we're partnering with Walmart and Target and Google. And I mean, those are comforting names in that I use their products, but a little bit weird. And then you guys come in that, you know, you're sort of like a Google, but not like a Google. So how does a company that values privacy partner with governments, or is that just impossible? I mean, obviously I would want my government, if they're going to take my information, to keep it safe. And I don't think that they take the privacy of my data very seriously. But what's your comment on that, if any?
I mean, I think it's like, what's different about Brave from any of those companies you mentioned is like, we don't want to collect any data about anybody, right? Like, and so we want to make things that can work and be functional, but we want to have that happen locally, like on your device. So if we were in a situation where like the government were to seize our servers or somebody were to hack our system, like that, we have no information and basically deniability over our user base, right? Like, and so, you know, like even if we were to partner, and like, we haven't been partnering with the government in any way, and we wouldn't, like that, at least as far as I know. And, you know, I can't speak for others, but our core principles are, we do not want to collect your data. We do not want to get in the business of collecting your data, but we want to make it so that if you do want to use these services with the government or wherever, that you can use them and you can voluntarily give your data to whoever you want. And that if you're going to do that, then we're going to also make sure that, you know, the path that you do that on is as secure as we can make it. And that other parties aren't, you know, going to get in the way or try and steal your information or, you know, try and filter or infer whatever from it. So I think, you know, it's about kind of changing the dynamic of how data is used and making sure that, you know, there's a one-way or two-way connection between parties that both are agreeing about it and that getting everyone else out of the way. And so if we do partner with companies or, you know, et cetera, like it's them working within our framework. It's not the other way around. Like, we don't make it a habit of whitelisting things to get things done. Like, we want to make sure that, like, we want to create a new alternative. We don't want to like create half of one, right? So like, you know, it's just kind of a core difference between what we're doing, but you don't get there unless you make new technology to do it. And that's kind of what we've been doing. And, you know, I've never worked at a company where you've got this many different types of people, all this dedicated to creating new things and that are good for privacy. And, you know, it's, you know, I would say, like, from any of the companies out there that could do this, we're at the top of the list. And, you know, we've got a significant, you know, millions of users using this stuff now. So like, the more we grow, the more mainstream it gets, you know, the messaging changes, but like the product, you know, since I've started here in 2016 to now, we've been extremely consistent with privacy. If anything, we are more stringent about privacy now than we ever have been before. And we aren't doing what you see others do where, you know, like, I think it was 2010, Zuckerberg was like, you know, privacy is kind of like the thing of the past. And now he's out there saying it's the future. It's just very weird to like, there's not that here. It's very consistent. And it's always kind of with the user in mind. Like, so, you know, we don't really take partnerships where it would, you know, violate those principles at all. And if anything, you know, the value that we bring to a partnership is that we are bringing them something without the liability that they've been having to deal with data collection and all of that mess. Where, like, if you go to a publisher site, the publisher doesn't even really know where all of your data goes, like, you know, because all these other third parties are passing it around all the time. Like, and that's kind of risky for businesses when you have new laws that are coming on the books that change, you know, the liability, make it something that you have to be accountable for. So, you know, that's kind of the difference between us and what others are doing. And that's differences there, whether it's something, you know, that a user's doing or whether that's a business partnership that we're making or a publisher or a creator, whatever. Like, with the principles are the same across the board, basically.
Are you guys open source?
Yeah. So the browser.
And if you could tell people what that means, because, you know, some listeners are familiar, but I always like a breakdown of some of these general terms.
So no, like, to answer the question, yeah, like, what is open source, right? Like, so it's basically, you know, it's a different way to work where you put your code out there and make it so that, you know, anybody that wants to come and access and audit your code can, which basically is a check on our messaging. You know, like, we're going into the market and we're saying we care about privacy and we care about what we're doing. And a key a key element of that is to be transparent. And so when you work with open source code and open source, models, basically, like you're creating a way for anybody to come audit the code, or they could even fork our project. So, like, for example, I mean, like, our code base that the browser is built on is from Chromium, which is Google's open source code base. So I can take Chromium, but I'm not the only browser, right? Like Brave uses Chromium, but Brave removes anything that phones home to Google or proxies it, or it makes sure. And there's a whole list of what we do on GitHub that basically, deviations from stock Chrome, because it turns out even when you're using Google's open source code, there's a lot of phoning home that goes on back to Google. So we have a team of people that are basically, that check and keep these things updated every time we have big changes. Long story short, like if you go to a site like github.com, and if you want to check out our code, you can go to github.com/brave, and you can see all of our repositories. And it's basically, in addition to being able to audit the code, it also opens up freedom for developers and engineers and community volunteers to come and submit issues that they discover or contribute work and help build the project. So some of our best engineers that we have on staff were first open source volunteers and contributors on the project that ended up being employees of the company because they were that dedicated to it and they had really good work. And you don't build a browser like this without having that type of a community around it. And so that's kind of what open source allows you to do. It allows you to put your code out there for anybody to see it, but also for anybody else to copy it over and use it. And then it also gives people a way to help you contribute and find bugs and be open and transparent and make it so that if we're out there saying we aren't doing this, that somebody can check the code and make sure that you're not doing any funny business. And we have people doing that all the time. And we also have bug bounty programs through HackerOne where people can come and report bugs and get rewards for it, et cetera, or vulnerabilities and all of that. So it's a different way of working. But and Google also does open source code work as well. Like they have repositories too, and it's just a better way to work where you can go say with confidence that hey, like we're not doing any funny business, and here's our code. You can go check it out yourself and build it from the code if you want to. But it also opens up other things for people to actually try out earlier versions of the product too and contribute to it and all of that good stuff.
Wow, that's awesome. I'm just I love Brave. I think you guys are so cool. I'm fangirling. So you guys are straddling this world between just regular browser use and then content creators. And that's kind of sinking into me because it's a pretty visionary thing to do. But what do you guys think about copyright? As a content creator, I always thought copyright is so important. But I've had some, on the Tatiana Show a long time ago, I had a really interesting conversation with John Light and Jeffrey about how copyright is rent seeking and there's some problems with it. So I've grown to be a little bit more flexible. I like to give the artists the right to enforce their copyright or not. Has there been an official position or that you guys are trying to adhere to over at Brave regarding that?
I mean, I think, so as far as an official position, I'm not really sure that we have established the official position on this. I think, when it comes to where we are as a browser with it, we take the role of, if it's on the client, the user should have agency over it. And if it's something that, is very much in need of a copyright protection or some other protection, that should be done server side. And that should be something that's, maintained and operated server side. And if their client is able to access it, from their device, then by their choices and their options on the device, that's something they should do. But I think the other problem is that people have used these copyright laws in ways that are not necessarily as intended either. And so a lot of them are also using it to, track behavior and also make it things more black box. So I think that, there's what we're doing with empowering creators to create and, own their own work. is important and is the key of what we're doing. But, we also take this really strong position where, the user has control over their browser, and they should be able to have control over their browser. And if something, if a publisher or someone else is trying to overreach with things in the name of copyright, like blockers, things like that. Like there are a couple out there where there was a case a while ago where somebody tried to throw in a digital Millennium Copyright Act around ad blocking behavior, and it's just kind of silly because you have your browser is your user agent, and you should be able to have control over that, and a lot of times these things get abused for people that are like trying to block ads. And the thing that's been interesting to watch in the industry is that people have, in the US at least, framed ad blocking as an annoyance protection, or as a way to get around annoying ads or whatever. And you see this repeated a lot, like we're making ads less annoying, or acceptable ads, or whatever. And it's really, for a lot of people, that's not why they're doing it. For a lot of people, it's because they don't want to have privacy invasion, or a lot of these ad networks are very insecure. And so, whether it's, protecting privacy or giving users agency, I think, if someone's trying to use copyright in a way that overreaches into that space, Brave is going to side on with users and with protecting user agency over that type of overreach.
Are you guys thinking at all about having a Brave TV or some kind of a content curation portal, maybe a podcast or something? Because again, you're focusing so much on the content creators. Are you going to start picking winners and losers? What's going to happen?
I don't think
actually, that makes it sound a little bit bad. I mean, but people like curation. I don't like the big blob of content. I never use Spotify. I know that I can listen to any song on earth. I hate that. It makes me feel like uncomfortable. And so I don't use those sites because I feel overwhelmed. Do you think that you guys will end up curating any?
I think what you see, like probably maybe even sooner rather than later, is, the way that our advertising model works is we have kind of machine learning on the device that looks at your browsing profile in your browser and basically matches things to personalize ads to you based off of that browsing profile. And that all happens on your device. So no signals go out to Brave about what you're looking at or anything like that. What you could see very in the near future is us adapting that model to work with things like content curation. So if the browser sees that if your browser or your browsing profile has a lot of like country type of content in it, for example, or if you're a big news junkie, right? Like your browser might like show you more things that are personalized to your browsing profile. So yes, that is happening. From an organizational level, though, I think one of the things I really like about what we've been able to do so far is kind of step back. And like I said earlier, as long as the content is not promoting violence or of violent nature, right? Or harm or anything like that, we kind of let it run. And sometimes we run into issues around that, and it's been an interesting thing releasing an ad platform, because the time that we're releasing it is also at a time when, you're seeing additional censorship in the name of brand safety or in the name of other things, right? That is causing, a filtering of certain content because people don't necessarily want that to be in the norm. And we haven't taken that position. We've been very much a neutral player because the web is big and the web is everywhere. And, we want to make sure that we're not, giving people that are hurting people, revenue or whatever through the platform, but we don't want to kill free speech. Or everybody should have a soapbox, right? And as long as you're not hurting people, and that's kind of the ethos of what we're doing, and we're not going to get in the way of that. So that also means that we're not necessarily going to pick winners. We might highlight creators that are verified on our platform, sure, and we do that on our Bat community site. So batcommunity.org is our kind of official home base for the community, and we have a podcast that is updated once a week there. That kind of covers, it started on Reddit 3 years ago, we had a weekly update that we would just put out from one of our volunteers who also is now on staff. And then that eventually evolved into also having a podcast. And so it's in most, I think it's on, the Apple, where the Apple store or whatever, you get podcasts on Apple, and, and it's in a bunch of other areas, but it's also accessible through YouTube and our site. So what we're doing with the community is basically creating a lot more content through it, and also highlighting creators that are there. And I think you'll see more and more of that this year. But in the product, like we were talking about earlier, like, you'll see some personalization and curation happening, and you'll have the ability to curate. And I think that's the other cool thing about what we're doing is, like, you should be able to go into your browser and say, look, like, I'm into Nike, or I'm into like country or rock or rap or whatever, and these artists, and then, see special offers or, deals from them. And then also have this kind of machine learning model that helps to make suggestions that maybe you didn't consider, but that are, personalized to you. So taking that, what works with advertising as a first pass, because look, we're a for-profit company. Like, I'm not going to hide that. Like, we want to make money, and, advertising is terribly broken, and we also want to give users something for viewing advertising. So like, we started with ads, but this easily goes into content creation and media companies and other areas as well. Like, you could see this definitely being something with shopping and in addition to advertising, and you could also see it with music and art and other creative mediums too.
You kind of beat me to the question, which is, does advertising work? Because it feels very overwhelming and like a huge expense for a new startup. I'm not even talking about a tech startup. I'm saying any kind of business, any kind of artist. For example, I think to myself, okay, well, I want to promote my new album, or I want to promote a new track. If I spend $50 on Facebook, what am I going to make from it? And obviously, I think that content creators specifically have a little bit more of a challenge there. But more broadly, I mean, people do have ad blockers. They're bored of ads. Everybody thinks of advertising as the scourge of the world. But, sometimes it's good to know about new products. The way that I almost miss the advertisingness of a radio, right? Like, radio used to curate music. I do kind of want a curated product. So what would you say to your approach in relation to that?
Well, I think like a lot of the pushback to advertising, like, and a lot of like, the rise of ad blocking and all of that. I mean, it kind of went from a point where it was, digestible to where it was just, one of the funny things that I've discovered after working for this company, because prior to this, when I was in advertising, you'd have to look at how the ads look on every browser. So you get a really good feel of like what all the browsers look like. But what it was really striking now, and I challenge anybody to like try this at home too, is like, you give Brave a shot for like 3 or 4 days, right? Like, and then go back to Chrome, and you don't realize just how much of every website you go to is ads competing with content for real estate. And it's just gotten so obnoxious. But also, the privacy part too, right? Like, but I think that, I don't think ads are inherently bad. And I think people are annoyed with just being bombarded with crap all the time. And even within the advertising industry, right? Like there's then this big, 4 or 5 years ago, there was this big push to be able to measure if something was even seen or not. And it was this big debate. And it's like, you guys are in advertising, like there shouldn't be an argument whether something was seen. Something should be seen. Like that's what you want. But things have gotten so off the rails that it's like, people just are naturally kind of reflexing against all of this busyness that happens with advertising. So I think that there is a place though, like, and it's not just on our platform too, other platforms are starting to tweak the way that advertising works. Like if you can get ads right, like do it so it's not so annoying. Like what we do is the first unit that we brought to market, like the first ad type that we brought to market was like a push notification, and we put controls in for users to be able to like adjust it from like 1 to 5 times an hour. So at 5 times an hour, I mean, if you go to any other website outside of Brave, the typical page load is like 3 to 5 ads per page. So already we're slowing down, the velocity of ads, and you're seeing fewer of these things. But then you can build in things like we did, where if you're reading something, we've programmed it to where we try to really be careful with how often the ad is presented and what the situation is that the context is that the ad is presented, so that we don't be disruptive. And for example, like if you turned on Do Not Disturb on your laptop, we built in this feature in Brave Rewards where it's called a 7-day ad history. So let's say you have Do Not Disturb up and you go look at this ad history, you can see what ads have showed up, or, on mobile, it shows up in the system tray, and you can reference this stuff later, so that, it kind of changes the way that, ads are served. And then gives users the ability to also thumbs up or thumbs down and see what category was used, and if they don't like that category, to opt out of it, or they can favor that category. And then that inspires this machine learning model to basically match more ads to that category. So it's kind of like, instead of like retargeting a person a bunch of times, like you have a model that kind of learns with the user and based off of those decisions that they make. So if you can get advertising right, it can be very effective. And I think the other thing that's different about what we're doing is we don't want to show ads to people that don't want ads. So we want to give people privacy by default. And if you want to be part of this advertising experience, you opt into it. And then if you opt into it, your reward is that you get rewarded for viewing these ads. But if you don't want to see ads, we make it so that you don't see ads. I mean, we have a sponsored image unit that shows a logo in a corner, on this new tab page that we have, but people can turn that off. But the thing that does is it shows people that, hey, you could also earn from viewing ads if you do this one step. And, so it's about trying to get it right and trying to take this as an opportunity to say, hey, if you had a chance to change the way that people engage with advertising, from the ground up, how would you do it? And that's kind of what we're putting a lot of time and effort into, is trying to make something that's not super annoying and that is really, effective, because you learn a lot from ads too. Some people don't want to admit it, but you do. And Google is Google because they serve you relevant advertising when you go and make a Google search. That was their core business, and those search ads outperform the display ads, by at least, significantly, right? I think the average click-through rate for a display ad is around 1%. And if you look at, contextual search ads are over 3% from Google. So it's significantly outperforming the junk that's out there. But there's a place for advertising. And I think that, what is it, how much of advertising is advertising and how much of it is just giving people an offer or exposing them to a product that they haven't been familiar with? And how can creators leverage that to promote their own work? We've done this too, where we have, we work a deal with a publisher and we use the ad platform to promote their content to our users. And then, the users will get the content, they can go to the site, they can tip the creator. It's a way to get discovered, because we have, millions of people using this stuff. And, if you're creator and you want to get your work out there, let us know. We can, we're trying to trial out different things and show people that, hey, this platform can help to deliver people to your content, whether that's through ads or, getting your current audience over, whatever. So there's a lot of things that we're willing to try out and experiment. And we want to see this work for creators and for publishers and for users. So
what is the value to a platform like yours to provide free services to someone who doesn't want to see the ads? Why would you even want them on the platform? I mean, yeah, you can say, we have, 12 million and one people using this month, but if they're not seeing ads, are they actually valuable?
I think they're definitely valuable. I mean, and the ads are one way to make money, but the interesting thing about a browser is it's not limited to one way to make money, right? You can have deals with search companies. You can show people can take advantage of e-commerce offers or buy subscriptions to things, right? There's just money flows in and out of the browser, and so it's kind of, if you can get people an experience that they want. I mean, those people that don't want ads probably do want to pay for a VPN, and maybe we can work a situation out with a VPN or another service that works in our advantage too. And so I think another thing you could see from us in the near future is offering a place for people to go, like a storefront where they can see a curated set of products that are from, certain vendors, and then, purchase those products. And then, if they purchase them through the browser, maybe we get a percentage of that, like a rev share off of that or something like that. So there's ways that you can monetize, right? Like without having to show ads, and you can monetize with ads. And I think for us, with Brave, even if you opt into rewards, like you can turn advertising off, and you can just, self-fund your wallet and tip people through the browser. So you could probably see us come out with something that expands on that as well. And so, it's about fueling content, whether that's from ads, which is kind of where we started with it, or out of your own wallet, which was, our Bitcoin proof of concept that we did was just funding your wallet through your existing Bitcoin wallet, or through a Coinbase integration that we had where you could buy it with a debit card. So I think those people are super valuable to us, and I also think that there's a value in being able to tell people, hey, you don't need to have ads here either if you don't want to. But if you do want ads, you get rewarded for it. And the challenge for us is to think of like, okay, how many different ways can we reward people for things? And then how can we give people, things to do with that bat once they receive it? So like, we haven't talked about this yet, but we recently, I think, 2 weeks ago, we introduced a feature in our nightly channel of the browser that'll be coming down, I think, early in April, maybe around the 7th or 8th or something like that, where you can actually take your bat that you earn and then use it to buy like gift cards through our partners in the TAP network. So like, we're trying to think of different ways that you can use bat, whether you're purchasing it yourself or whether you're earning it through the ad platform. And then, like, people also just want a fast browser too, and we want to give that to people. And so, giving them something that's safe to use the web is really important. And then it's on us to kind of figure out different ways to monetize that. But, every way that we figure out to monetize that has to also live with our privacy principles and go through privacy reviews and all of that stuff. And we're pretty diligent about making sure that we don't, break the rules and that people get what they are hoping for with the browser.
Awesome. All of this is awesome. I'm loving this interview, but we've been talking for a while, and so we should probably wrap it up. But before we go, I of course have another question. What's on the horizon? I think you guys are breaking trends, doing all this interesting stuff. What's happening in 2020?
This year, you'll see a lot more kind of expanding into new areas, like how can we give people more of what they want to, how can we take services that are used typically by standalone apps and make the browser a better place to access them? What can we do to give people content in new ways that they haven't been accessing it before? How can we give people options to buy that content or to do other things with the browser? I mean, and also how can we take this out of home, like with mobile, how can we use, your mobile device and the browser that's on it in a way to access things in the real world. So like, if you look at like non-fungible tokens, a lot of the focus is on like how people use that for certain things, but you could actually look at it as like, okay, this might cover a subscription and also a live event or something like that. And so we have a crypto wallet feature in the browser, the native crypto wallet, that you can use for, Ethereum and BAD and other, Ethereum based things, but you can see us expanding that elsewhere. We just introduced a crypto trading widget under a nightly channel with Binance. And so, trying to kind of get crypto out to the masses is important for us. And then also, trying to give people services and things like that they typically have to go to another app for in the browser is really important. So, how can we help you organize things in your life easier, especially now if you're doing more stuff from home? So a lot of that is coming down the horizon, and some of the stuff we touched on earlier too, with creators being able to find additional ways to make money and to push products and content and other things like that.
Well, I'm going to push for an online content conference where you just hang out with all the other content creators. That's my vote.
Let's do it. I'll get other people on it too from the company they'd love to join.
Yeah, I know. I got a lot of friends.
Awesome.
I think you do too. So this sounds like a party.
Yeah.
Okay, so we didn't talk about any conspiracy stuff. The audience will just have to wait and wonder what our anticipations are, because I think we're doing it this weekend. People connect with you. Maybe there's a charity listening. They think, and by the way, what's the criteria for a charity?
I mean, they just reach out. I mean, like you can, hit me up at luke@brave.com, and we can discuss it. But basically, we're opening it up to most causes that want to join. And if they do, like, all we basically do is they just verify their site or whatever accounts with us, and then we grant out, like, it's up to like $10,000 for the quarter in free advertising that we serve whenever there's not a paid ad to show somebody. So, like, great way to get tips and other things from people using BAT in the browser, and take those contributions and use them for the work you're doing, and also a great way to get exposure. And yeah, so just come, like, reach out to us, and it's just luke@brave.com if you want to reach out and you have a cause that you'd like to join up with us with in the program.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much, Luke, for joining us on the show today. We'll have to do it again. We've got to get Joel Harper on with us. He was one of the original creators on the Brave platform. Well, I don't know if we're the original, but I think we're all the original. Anybody under the first million is the original.
Yeah, you all are the originals.
Just like, I'm going to arbitrarily set the bar for your company. You're welcome.
I love it.
No,
Thank you.
Anyway, no, well, we're the original adopters, and we should do a show and see what's going on, because I know that he did some stuff with environmental impact. So, it looks like it's an ongoing thing for you guys. And I love to see that kind of corporate responsibility. I love the ethics. I love the vibe. We had a really cool happy hour / dinner thing with some of the Brave team here in New York. So as soon as this whole virus passes over, we'll have to do another one. Thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks once again to eToro for sponsoring the show. The TatianaShow.com airs on Tuesdays on the LTV network, but you can also go to the site directly. Go to proofoflovecast.com and get your love on. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did. Thanks so much. Go download your Brave browser, and we'll see you next time on The Tatiana Show.
Hey there, it's time for the show, The Tatiana Show, where you make friends and talk life and crypto. We gotta think and reflect and use lots of intellect with our hearts when we work together. I know that it can be so hard out there, looking all around and saying that life ain't fair. So that is why we will fight and stay up late at night, listening to the Tatiana Show.
Are you afraid of Corona? Are you worried about financial collapse? Then join us at Prepper Palooza on Sunday, April 5th at 2 p.m. Eastern, going till I don't know how long, maybe a few hours, maybe longer. Please join Tatiana Moroz, Josh Shigala, Michelle Ray, Lynn Ulbricht, Anastasia, Juan S. Galt, Deanna Bailey, Kristen Megan, Leah Thompson, and many, many more special guests for Prepper Palooza. If you want to learn about Prepper 101 stuff, watch some interesting interviews, and hear some live music provided by Tatiana Moroz, Jordan Page, Diana Zinni, and many more. Well, maybe just those. We'll see. Anyway, the point is, this is going to be the event of a lifetime. Don't get stuck unprepared. Come to Prepper Palooza. Find out more at TatianaMoroz.com or TheTatianaShow.com and get your information. April 5th, Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Prepper Palooza. Don't miss it.
The Tatiana Show has been brought to you by CryptoMediaHub.com, a boutique marketing and PR agency for Bitcoin and beyond. Thank you for listening to The Tatiana Show. Please follow us on Twitter at Queen Tatiana or on Facebook and Instagram at Tatiana Moroz Music. More episodes can be found at TheTatianaShow.com, and make sure you leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends. You are listening to The Tatiana Show. This show may contain adult content, language, and humor and is intended for mature audiences. If that's not you, please stop listening. Nothing you hear on The Tatiana Show is intended as financial advice, legal advice, or really anything other than entertainment. Take everything you hear with a grain of salt. Oh, and if you're listening to us on an affiliate network, the ideas and views expressed on this show are not necessarily those of the network that you're listening on or of any sponsors or any affiliate products you may hear about on this show. Now that that's squared away, let's start the show.